Terraria is a game I find myself going back to time after time. I figured the reason for this was something vague and unhelpful, like, it's fun, or it has great replay value, or there's a gun named at the back of my head and the man pointing it won't go away until I beat them. But in my latest playthrough, I think I pinpointed the two reasons why I keep coming back to a $10 indie game that looks like Final Fantasy. And that's the progression and the progression. No, I didn't make a mistake in my script, or my recording, or editing for that matter, because when I say the progression of Terraria, I mean it in two ways, the in-game progression and the out-of-game progression. When I say in-game progression, I mean something very simple, the process of playing through the game from beginning to end. Every single time I play through Terraria, I always come out of the other side feeling I accomplished something great. Like I'd come far since the beginning of my file. In the beginning of Terraria, you will find yourself living in a shotgun shack, cutting down the closest trees to you with your shitty dull copper axe in an attempt to create something that resembles a home. The weakest enemy of the game, the slime, will pose to be a slight challenge since your only actual weapon is a pocket knife the game generously gives the title of short sword. Exploring the catacombs will feel alien. You aren't exactly sure where to go. All you know is it's dark, and there's possibly treasure down below. After a while, you'll get acquainted with the basics, get yourself a decent set of armor, and grow a little more confident in your exploring. Maybe even defeat a boss. But until you've played the game for... my god, what have I done? A long time, you never lose that feeling of wonder. There's always something new to explore... Huh? Hang on guys, slime is raining from the skies, I gotta take care of this. Okay, I'm back. Anyway, like I was saying, there's always something new to explore just around the corner. Explored the caverns underground? Try the snow or desert biomes underground. Done with that? Try the corruption or the crimson biome. Done that? Then try the jungle or the dungeon or hell. And once you... sorry guys, another interruption. Goblins are raiding my bunker. Done and done. Okay, so once you feel you've seen everything you believe Terraria has to offer, you can try your hand at attempting what Terraria calls hard mode. Only accessible by defeating the boss of hell, the Wall of Flesh. The name hard mode isn't trying to blow smoke up your ass either. Once the Wall of Flesh is killed, Terraria dials up the difficulty 8 or so notches, and will likely kick your ass if you're not prepared. One snag in this progression is the beginning of hard mode though. Since there aren't any more new areas to explore, this part leaves you having to re-explore old areas and search for new ores that have become available to you. Terraria is a fairly grindy game, and it's most noticeable at this part. Personally, I'm not bothered too much with grinding, but even I found myself warping back to my shitty home base to take a bit of a break. This feeling of monotony disappears once you take on the mechanical redesigns of the old bosses though. Then the game escalates more and more, getting into battles with an angry plant, an anticlimactic fight with a golem, and eventually a creature known as the Moon Lord, who strikingly resembles that guy from those Hewlett-Packard Minecraft books. Hard mode is sort of a strange name because it implies you're starting over on a higher difficulty, but you're not starting over, not really. A better name for hard mode would be part 2, because hard mode is really just the second half of the game, and while the amount of areas to explore isn't as— pirates. Isn't as plentiful as part 1 of the game, the amount of other content like items, bosses, and events is just as plentiful, if not more so. The progression your character goes through doesn't get much better than Terraria's. Your house building could use a little work though. Time to elaborate on what I mean when I say out-of-game progression. It's the simplest way I can explain the amount of iterations that Terraria has been through over the years. I'm sure this isn't a secret to anyone, but for those unaware, Terraria is far from the game it was 6 years ago. Fundamentally, it's the same, yes, but content-wise, it's like comparing a chapter of a book to a complete novel. Like I said before, I'm sure people know that Terraria has gotten frequent content patches over the years, but I'm not sure how many people know how much wasn't in the base game. Remember all that hard mode / part 2 content I talked about earlier? Well, absolutely none of the things that were shown or talked about during that segment were in the base game. In fact, some pre-hard mode content was missing as well, like the Wall of Flesh, Winter Biome, Slime Rain, the entire alternate biome to the Corruption, the Crimson. Redigit, the lead developer of Terraria, has gone on record saying he was pressured to release Terraria in the state it was due to the pre-release version being leaked, and that he and his team would continue to support Terraria with content patches in the future. How much content was supposed to be in the original release that wasn't, I'm not exactly sure. But Redigit could have released the game in the state it was originally, and it would have still been worthwhile. And he did keep his promise of content updates, as you're probably aware, but it didn't always seem that way. Because around February of 2012, development for Terraria ceased. At that point, hard mode was introduced, but progression-wise, it only went up to the 3 mechanical bosses, which is to say a far cry from the current iteration of hard mode. Many people were bummed that this seemed to be the end, but at that point, I felt like I had gotten my money's worth out of the game. Yeah, it was unfortunate that development for a game that I felt had so much more to give seemed to be ending so abruptly, but I was ready to move on. Thankfully, this isn't where the story ends, as Redigit came out of retirement less than a year after the original announcement of the end of Terraria. Patches continue to trickle out to this day, but the last big content patch was released at the end of June 2015, 1.3, and that's where Terraria stands to this day. 1.3 is meant to be the final update of its ilk, and it pulled out all the stops. Many people, myself included, felt this was a worthy end to the game. And did I forget to mention that all of these patches were free, by the way? Redigit and his team at Relogic never once charged for a patch, or raised the price of Terraria to reflect the changes it's received over the years. It's been $10 on Steam since its release, and frequently goes down in price during sales. It's pretty rare for a game developer to do that this day and age, and it gives me the feeling that Redigit and his team really care about the community. These sorts of things tend to go a long way when it comes to customer goodwill, to put it lightly. Over the years, Terraria has grown from a small indie game branded as a 2D Minecraft to one of the best-selling games on Steam, and stands toe-to-toe with other indie greats such as The Binding of Isaac and maybe even Cave Story. And while the scale has changed, the feelings I get when progressing through the game have not. Thanks for all the good times, Terraria. Can't wait to play you again soon.